My name is My name is Kaz Macklin from Kent Invicta Chamber of Commerce. I'm delighted to be here with Team Chamber today, who is Molly Hall. Molly Hall is orchestrating this event today, so hopefully it will be seamless for you. As always, thank you very much indeed, Molly, for your help. Our keynote speaker today is Mr. Harry Dance from valued Chamber members Kayo Digital. Kayo Digital are based in Sittingbourne. They're an award-winning local agency. Harry, you're unmuted. If I could kindly ask you to say hello to everyone.
Hello, everyone. Does that make it pretty easy, that one? Yeah, no, it's lovely to be
here. Absolutely. Quite a technical one today, folks, in terms of understanding Google Analytics 4, the impact, the reach, etc., etc. I don't want to spoil anything for any of you, so we're going to launch immediately into Mr. Harry Dance with his presentation. Please do feel free to put your contact details in the chat and also any questions. And what will happen is I will field those to Harry as we go through, and then you can ask them. So it's not necessarily interactive per se, but it's going to be as bouncy as we can make it. And I've had coffee this morning, so you know I'm bouncing all the way. Harry, over to you. The floor is yours.
Kaz, sorry, it's Laurie Day here. Hi, Kaz.
Hello.
Hi, Harry. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good.
How you doing, Harry? Nice to see you again. Kaz, is there any chance you could put the meeting details in the chat for me so I can put it up on our corporate screen in our meeting room, please?
What, the joining details? You
mean?
Just
the ID number and the password, and then I can put it up on our corporate screen because there's a couple of us watching it here this morning.
Absolutely. Molly, can I kindly ask you to do that? And can I kindly ask you to change Laurie from Nicola Argent to Laurie, L-A-W-R-I?
Don't worry, Nicola's going to stay here, Kaz, so she'll be here.
I'm here too.
Oh.
Thanks, Kaz.
I'm so sorry, Harry, about that, but very welcome, Laurie and the team. And of course, we'll make it as interactive. And I'm delighted that you're sharing this with your team. Thank you very much indeed. Harry, over to you, and we'll put that information, sir, in the chat for you.
Cool. No, thank you all. Thank you, Laurie. I've never been on the big screen, so this is a big moment for me. So this will be told to my parents very quickly after this. This is the part where my anxiety kicks in at the most because I'm going to share my screen, and if it doesn't work, then you just realize I work for a technology company and I can't share my screen. So hopefully everyone can see that. Cool. I've got thumbs up from Molly. This first part is unfortunately what everyone has to go through. It's almost like the adverts of a film. This is just me talking about myself for a good 5 minutes, so strap in and get ready to be slightly bored. Here we go. That's my name, contact details. Please do contact me if you need further questions, any other advice on this. And actually, who is Kayo Digital? That's where I'm from. I'm the digital marketing director. We're an agency based outside Sittingbourne that helps basically make a positive difference in business through technology, be that software, websites, digital marketing, consultancy. It's kind of our bread and butter. And that's a lovely graphic to define that. Some of our clients, the nature of testimonials here, you know some of them, you won't know other ones, but I'm very proud for everything we've done with them. But I will fly through this because actually we're here to talk about GA4. And actually, just quickly, some credentials. Award-winning team, UK Agency of the Year Award 2020 and the Development Agency 2021. Obviously, members of the Kent Invicta, I'm very proud of that. Actually, just a Kent business, to be honest, that helps SMEs and larger companies throughout the Southeast grow and develop through technology. Cool. So now I've done the stuff that the team told me to do. Now we can talk about GA4. Okay, analytics, not naturally the sexiest thing you can talk about. However, I'm going to try and make this interesting because actually even the proposition of GA4 coming out kind of shows a big, I don't know, reference to how the world is changing. So quick agenda here. What should we do about cookieless future? That is actually pushing that because GA4 has come into place for multiple reasons, the privacy of it, a new way of monitoring, but actually it's kind of catering for a cookieless future. And by that, I mean something where the cookies, third-party cookies, i.e. the things that follow you around the web, won't allow, is going to no longer be used to kind of help people advertise to you as effectively. What's happening to Google Analytics and why? Why is it disappearing? A lot of marketers use it and love it. I think 78% of the web use Google Analytics, what is kind of showing how big this change is. Of course, what is GA4? Am I talking about today? And what should you be considering? Positive and negatives, what you need to do today, questions, but as kind of Kaz highlighted there, just interrupt me because I'll keep talking till someone shouts at me. So quickly, I'm going to touch upon items like this. Oh, there will be a bit of a product demo as well for GA4, as long as we've got time. So I'll quickly put my timer on. But I want to try and make this as interesting, as engaging as possible. So what should we do about cookieless future? Well, the big thing is actually if cookies are disappearing because we as a consumer, as the public understand, actually these third-party cookies, these things that follow me around the web, aren't just used for my own use, they're used for advertising realistically. They're allowed to target people. And especially with something like Cambridge Analytica that came out about 3-4 years ago, we actually understand the power of these cookies, what information people can get from me. And it's genuinely true. I think about 6-7 years ago, if I want to do Facebook advertising, I could, as an example, I could advertise to people who are recently married, who are middle class, based in the Hyde and Folkestone area. That's a lot of information that you get only from a Facebook profile and how people engage with stuff. This is slowly being pulled back. And as a marketer, probably quite scary, but as someone who is a consumer, a part of the public, I think it's right. It's similar to when GDPR kicked in. Actually, everyone's like, what about all those hundreds of thousands of lists I've paid for? Who cares? Now it's only about talking to the individuals who want to talk to you, not the people you want to talk to. And that is the very kind of different nature of what we're trying to do here. So what would I advise? Own your data. That database you've got of email addresses of clients, customers, brilliant. That you own that makes value in your business as itself. Understand what you want and need. And I think that is essential because this is, and I will go into it a bit, but a huge change. So focus on what you need and then what you want, because actually we've had a lot of data before, but have you used it? Or is it something that you've used just for your own ego? Because I've done that. I've used so much of my own ego because I thought that looks a bit cool. Let's look into that. Didn't need it. So let's focus on that. Create a strategy, install GA4. I will contradict myself later on and say you don't need to install GA4, but let's go past that. What's happening in Google Analytics? It's disappearing July 2023. And by that, I mean, literally it's stopping working. So from today, you've got just under a year of data with that. So straight away, what I advise is install GA4. That means you've got a year's worth of data when July 2023 kicks in on GA4. What means you can compare and contrast with last year's data with this year's data. Because if you wait to July 2023 and you install GA4, you won't have the historical data you're kind of used to. I kind of would advise you do it today. Second thing, not just the data, but I think painfully we're aware of, we've been for a couple of COVID years. What I mean by that is data is not the normal anyway, because everyone was at home over the last 2 years. And because of that, with our clients, prospects, whoever it is, we've actually seen the last 2 years, people using the web have increased by something silly. I think it was increased by 70% at one point, 80 maybe. Because of that, you do have unnatural data. You're looking at unnatural data, so it is expected to go down this year, but it does mean your results aren't normal, for lack of a better word. So actually, it's the right time to change. What is GA4? So here we go. That's where it gets cooking. So GA4, why is it different to Google Analytics? Everyone's calling it an upgrade. I would argue it's not an upgrade. It's the equivalent of if you said your car has become a helicopter. Yes, that's an upgrade. Yes, that's a transport tool. However, they're very different entities, completely different in its own right. Even the way they track stuff. Google Analytics is a hit-based model. It relies on people doing stuff, but judging it on how credible, how effective it feels it is, giving data back to Google. Where GA4 is an event-based, and I'm going to use the word event quite a lot. So if I spend a good 30 seconds on an event, An event is an action taken by a person on a website, and that can be any action. So that could be you scrolling down, that could be you clicking a button, that could be you watching a video. Anything you feel you can do on a website that you feel can be recorded or actioned as an event. And that's the huge thing about GA4, because you can track any event and you can make any event. And with these events, you can really understand how people use your website, because actually, I want to track, as an example, I want to understand how people watch a video, or if people watch a video, scroll down, go to a contact form, and then fill it out. All those events, you can create a bit of a platform for that to review and analyze. So that's an integral part. I've already touched upon it's cookieless. It does use cookies. However, it's built so it doesn't need to use cookies with AI. So it kind of gets rid of that. It's understood to be privacy centric. And I will say this now, and this is probably more interesting than actually helpful. What I'm about to say here is, so Universal Analytics, the current Google, isn't GDPR compliant. I think France have banned it, Italy have banned it, a couple other countries have banned it. GA4 as a platform is compliant. However, Google isn't compliant. And this is the real confusion part. And this is why I've kind of said install GA4, maybe not. It's up to you at this point. Because Google as a company is not compliant. And the reason that is because not all the data gets sent from Europe to America to their processing areas. And with that, you already become shaky grounds on GDPR compliance, because you're moving data to a non-GDPR compliant area. But also their Secret Service, what I found out, is able to access any data it wants when it's in America. Because of that, in theory, if your data gets sent to America, they can have a look at it. So that's why it's not GDPR compliant. But that's a real niche kind of almost pub quiz fact there. But I just thought I'd highlight it. And it's a cross-platform analysis tool. This is more interesting for people who have apps and websites. Historically, you weren't able to track both with the same tool. You can here, i.e. you can install Google Analytics 4 onto your app and your website, and you can monitor both at the same time. So actually, if you have an app and have a website, you can understand how they engage with each other. Things have changed. Some of the events are out of the box, and by that I mean, so those events, i.e. clicking, videos, some of them just come out of the box straight away when you install it, so you don't need to do them yourself. So that is every time someone uses a search bar, that's tracked. People using your videos, people scrolling, people clicking, and people clicking links to other websites. So that's good. Bounce rate. I'm not sure if everyone will know what this is, but they probably would have heard it at one point from a salesperson and or a marketer. Bounce rate, I've never seen as a valuable metric, and it's kind of been reflected by Google. It's not. Bounce rate, for anyone who doesn't know, is when someone goes to a website and then leaves straight away. So one page and leave. However, the intricacies of why I don't think it's a valuable metric is because it's considered a bounce if they're on that page up to 30 minutes. So someone could be on that page for 29 minutes, 59 seconds, and then leave, and that's considered a bounce. What's negative? Maybe they got all the information they needed. If you're an emergency plumber, someone's probably going to go to your website, just get a phone number and leave, because they don't want to understand about you. They've got a flood. So these kinds of things have tried to be kind of sorted. And with that, they've moved to something called engagement rate. And that is how well someone engages with your website. So that's defined by if they're on a page for longer than 10 seconds, if they move on to a second page, and or if they do an event. So do they scroll, as an example? So that's kind of making a little bit clearer if that person's engaged, because unfortunately bounce rate wasn't allowing that. You've kind of got sessions. Sessions is how many people use use your website traditionally. However, with this, you will notice for the nerdiers of you lot, your sessions of GA4 and Google Analytics Universal may be different. The reason being is a session is defined as someone using the website. GA4 has changed that slightly, and the session is defined as people using your website over a 30-minute period. So that means if they went off your website and came back, it's still one session rather than two. They haven't gone to your website twice, they've just come back. The interesting area and the a very interesting area, actually. A place called Google Explore. I'll touch upon it tomorrow. Oh, tomorrow, Jesus Christ, it's not that long a speech. Oh, I'll touch upon it later. But this used to be associated to Google Analytics 360, what was the paid for medium from Google. That was, you'd have to pay something like 60 grand to get this tool historically. Now it's free. It's a way of basically allowing you to do pivot tables, funnels, whatever you want with the events that you've seen. And user versus traffic, again, a little bit of a niche knowledge one, but the attribution model of general analytics is the last thing a person did, i.e. if they came from Google once and then went to social media, then came back to the website and then they inquired, social media would have seen as that kind of, that got the thumbs up of that, generated the work, the inquiry. They've changed this by user. If you go on the user area of the web area, I'll show you in a bit, but that is defined by how they got to the website first. So Google would have associated all the kind of thumbs up. This generated the work because they went to Google, they came back, then they came through social media to get the work. Traffic defined by social media. So how long we got left? Cool. Flying through. So the events themselves, I kind of want to spend a little bit of time on this, but more because of it's a really interesting concept and it's been used by Adobe Analytics, again, paid for medium historically. And it's basically saying you can do anything on the website you can track and it all has the same authority till you say it's not. And by that, I mean, for example, if you wanted to track, if you've got an e-commerce store or you've got a paid for tool, I want to track every time someone clicks the add to basket button. And then I want to track it every time someone submits the basket form. And then I want to make sure, I want to track every time someone pays for it and then clicks the referral tool, the code, whatever it is. You can do that and then you can create the funnels around it. And with that information, as you can kind of see already, create a funnel for Google Explore. I'll quickly actually show you Google Explore just so I'm a visual learner, unfortunately. So I'll quickly bounce in to understand the funnel. This is Google Explore, but here we go. Here's an example. Give it a second. I'll quickly go back to this, sorry. You can create those kind of funnels itself. And actually, you can understand a little bit more about how the users use it. And you can create what we call conversions. And historically, a conversion within Google Analytics Universal was the big thing, i.e. someone clicked a phone number. That's what I want to track, because actually, I know I get my revenue from people clicking the phone number, submitting a contact form. That's easy with this, because actually any event that you do can become a conversion just by literally clicking a button. If I quickly go to the funnel. So this is some sort of funnel analysis. So as you can see here, unfortunately, I've compared direct versus paid, but you can see the first open session start, and you can understand the abandonment rate, the completion rate, really understanding how people go through your website. You can do this with any event for reference. Again, going back to that idea of you don't need to be siloed to what pages I've got, i.e. I want someone to go from one page to second page to third page. It could be I want someone to click a video, scroll to the bottom, click a contact form. How many people do that? Brilliant. All this information is readily available now. So I'll go back, and somehow I have broken PowerPoint. Cool, there we go.
Harry, so sorry to interrupt you.
Yes.
We have a question from
Cool.
Opa. Opa, can I kindly ask you to unmute? I think it's nicer if you're able to address Harry yourself.
Hello.
Hi, Opa. Thank you for joining us. Harry, Opa, introductions. You have a great question, Opa, if you could kindly put it to Harry.
So I was just wondering, with businesses like Lead Forensics that are tracking a lot of data that comes to our website, I don't know the background of what they do, but is that more from an IP address, or will that be affected by cookies and stuff like that with GA4?
I think so. Yeah, I've used lead forensics to my shame before as well. Like lead
I'm not
forensics,
currently using them, but it's something that I will be looking at as we get more traffic to the website.
yeah. I'm not no bias here, so I'm just I think it's IP. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's IP judged. You have to have a static IP, so it has to come from a business IP.
Yeah,
in
that's
general,
what
if
I
people
thought.
aren't working if they're working at home, they've got a non-static IP, for lack of a better word. So yeah, it's generally judged by that.
Okay.
Thank
So
you
they're
so
probably
much.
unreliable right now anyway.
Yes, because everyone's working from home. Yeah.
Well done.
Okay,
Thank you, Opa. Really nice question. And thank you for smoothly answering that. Robert, if I could kindly ask you to unmute, you had a question for Harry. Robert?
Yeah, hi, Harry. I use a couple of things. I use Active Campaign for my communication to my customers and CRM and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
One of the problems is that they use pixels and other various things to check and track how my campaign is going or whatever, communications and stuff like that. So like onboarding things, if people fill out forms, I can then send them the right information and so forth. The problem is though, if they're going to remove the cookies, then that's going to make them pretty much redundant, because it's just going to become a CRM system and a nice GUI to put together some form of campaign. What was going to happen? Can they do to still be useful? Otherwise, I'm paying them a lot of money for something I'm not going to be using.
Yeah, it's a really good question and $1 million question, I'll be honest. I'll speak hyperbole to you for a bit, but I won't give you a proper answer, if that makes you feel any better. I'm not 100% sure. I think because there are stuff you can still do. So back to that idea, your owned data will always be more valuable now anyway. So actually, it'll be more away from, rather than talking to people you don't know, about talking to people you do know. However, there's that caveat: if people sign up to allow cookies, etc., to track them, then actually you can do it. So it's that classic cookie consent form and stuff like that. It's just, and I don't think I'm technical enough to give you a proper gold standard answer here. But I think what I'd always advise is always focus on the people you currently know, and then just make sure when attracting the unknowns, you've kind of got that compliance, but also a process to get them in, get them engaged, and then getting the people you do know referring as well. That's always what I quite like. It's just trying to find different ways of attract people.
Sound information. Thank you, Harry. I hope that's helpful, Robert. If we can continue, Harry, that would be awesome.
Cool.
Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you.
So I think the final part that I found interesting in GA4 is actually the audiences. Audience is as simplistic as an audience that you can target now, or you can talk about with paid advertising. So actually, Robert, this may help slightly. I should have thought about this. So an audience can be ways of targeting people with X characteristics, i.e. if they've given X amount of information to Google, as an example, either said, I'm a male in XYZ criteria and I'm interested in this, and or they've got a group of events you want to track. So what you can do is, with an audience, you can create an audience for your paid advertising that says, I want to target everyone who has looked at my hoodies, put a hoodie in a basket and then not bought it. So that traditional, actually, you've put your information, you've put the hoodie in the basket, why don't you buy it, kind of thing. You can do that with paid advertising as well. And there's some really interesting kind of methodologies, a way of doing that around the audiences. Again, just to highlight, GA4 has got a year for it to be in place fully. Some of it isn't perfect yet. There are actually changes happening constantly because they've had to rush it because of a few announcements with, for example, Firefox doesn't accept third-party cookies at the moment, etc. Google Chrome said from 2023, so they're rushing bits and bobs. And you will notice that in some of the items will appear. So, for example, I've lambasted bounce rate. However, Friday, they announced that bounce rate will be included within GA4, but they haven't defined how or where. So it's that thing of going, actually, it is a moving tool, but audience is a really interesting thing to look into. So things you should be considering, I've touched upon this already. What data do you need? This is a good time to do it because actually COVID has influenced your old data anyway. So start afresh, understand that, because July 2023 will come around quickly. And for your reference, that data at the moment, and I say at the moment, Google Analytics Universal, you can't put that data into GA4. And it's back to that analogy that actually Google Analytics is a car, GA4 is a helicopter. They're just not compatible. The way they track things is different. Everything about it is different, the software, the technology. However, they are trying to look at stuff like that. But because of that, you have to understand from July 2023, the first, yeah, you don't have that data. So start collecting the data through GA4. What events do you need? What do you actually, what do you need set up? A lot of them you can do through Google Tag Manager. If you're okay with that, you can ask your developers to do it, especially e-commerce attributes. If you want that information pushed in, you'll need a developer. But do you need GA4? And this is the devil's advocate of me here. Actually, GA4 is used because you want to track stuff. If it doesn't track the information you need, then why do you need it? If you've got Shopify, for example, and all you want is your revenue and your products, brilliant, use Shopify. As a business individual, it's always that understanding of let's use the time wisely and effectively. Yes, this should be my sales picture saying get GA4, use Kayo Digital, we're really good at our job. But actually, at the end of the day, use stuff that is effective for you and your business. So what information do you need? Personally, I would say you need it, but again, it's a tool I use. So there's always going to be a bias on what I say.
Harry, sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
Question from Mr. Paul Nunn, Value Chamber member. Paul, if I could kindly ask you to unmute, sir.
Yeah, unmuted. Hi, Kaz.
Hi,
Harry.
there.
Silly question. Thanks, Harry. Is there a cost attached to this?
To GA4, no.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Told you
Thanks.
staff question.
Yep. Thanks.
No, it's not. I should have said that to you first. No, it's not. It's a free tool.
Thank you.
Cool.
Well done. Thanks. Thank you so much, Harry. Please continue.
I think this is more, and you'll get this presentation. So I've kind of trying to just put some information that I may not read verbatim. Kind of admitted to Kaz earlier, I was dyslexic, so reading's not a strong point. So I definitely won't read in verbatim. However, this is information you can go back to. But actually, things I kind of already touched on can be tracked out their box. These events that I've been kind of harping on about. So where do people come from? How do they scroll? What mediums they come from? i.e. Google, social media, etc. How long they spend? What they search? There are harder stuff you can do. So for example, do people from London buy anything? You can start tracking these audiences and events. So you can specify, actually, I want an audience, anyone who comes from London, who clicks the buy button, I want to track them. Brilliant, that's an audience member you can track now. But these won't come out naturally because, again, it's understanding what you need, that information of what you need. And what does my sales funnel look like? How much revenue is made? All this stuff can be sorted out. It's just getting that piece of paper and going, this is the stuff I need. I've put this in because actually it's a link, and Google has got a really good sandbox account, i.e. an account you can break. It's their own account. You can use it, you can break it. This is the account I'm using here. So if I actually, I'll just see how much slides I've got left to bore you with. Cool, not a huge amount, lovely. All right, I'll spend quickly 15 minutes on the tool itself and more to get you a visualization. I'm a visual learner, so it kind of probably is better for me than you guys, but here we go. This is Google Analytics, what you're used to. Very different. This is the thing that's disappearing in July 2023. As you notice, the reports, for lack of a better word, are vast, to say the least. If I keep opening them, it's probably 40, 50 different types of reports you can go into. Yeah, it's very, very extensive. GA4, less reports. So if you just go, you've got about 20 at most. You won't probably get this one as well, because I think this is to do with apps. So in general, there's not that much. So already there's a bit of a kind of going, where is all that information gone? It is there, it's simplified now. So if you can't find something you want, for example, host name, you can search for it. And actually the search bar is unbelievable, to be fair, on stuff. So if you haven't found stuff, you can find it quite quickly. But what they've done is try and really simplify it into acquisition, i.e. where people are coming from. Again, user acquisition, I've kind of touched on before. If I quickly go into that area, that is understanding the users, i.e. the, what was the first, how did they first come to the website? How many new users? And to quickly break this down, new users, new people. These will always be new, because this is the user base. So this is that first acquisition as kind of attribution, sorry, as touched upon before. Engaged, this is that engagement rate I was on about. Actually, they've got rid of bounce rate and they've created a whole different area for it. So how engaged are these users? The closer to 100, the better. The average time, of course, that is average time. These are visual representations of down here. So actually, that's kind of why I'm ignoring this. And what events they're doing. And again, this is that idea of anything can be an event. So their ad payment info. This has obviously been installed. This is the Google demo account. You can filter by that. Now you can understand that actually right now, if I'm looking at it off the top of my head, display, well, it gets a proportion. Poor engagement rate, i.e. everything else seems to be on average 60, that's 35. No one has had payment details. Should I be investing in that question? I don't know, just off the top. And also you can do the conversions. And again, these are big events, i.e. these are the events you feel like a real priority to you. And more for your reference, these are considered dimensions. Anything on a table on the left-hand side is a dimension, is a descriptor. So if I ever start waggling about dimensions, that's the reason. But yeah, this stuff you can filter like normal, like you used to. You can add additional information if you want, and you can search. But I just want to go really brief, because actually it's intimidating, because new is intimidating. I think that's the nature of things like this. So I just want to really quickly go over it. Nature of it, you can still do dates. You can change the dates. You can share it with people. You can share a link if you want. And what they have tried to do is they've created something called insights. It's probably best to do it on home. That's their AI, however you kind of define it, trying to give you information that they feel will be valuable to you. You can go to home, you can scroll down, you can have a good gander, view insights, sorry, told you I was dyslexic, and then actually understand that information a little bit more. So if we quickly go back to that, acquisition, traffic acquisition is identical to user, but it's about focusing on the medium rather than the person who got there first. So identical format, brilliant. You've kind of got that information you need. If you want to know how many people have come through Google, straight away, you've got that information. Users, sessions, how many times they've come over the time. Engaged again, events. If we can quickly scroll, event count, revenue. Brilliant. The information you probably need in a simple way. You've also got an engagement area, and back to that idea of engagement is bounce rate on roids, for lack of a better word. You've got the overview, but actually you can break it down to events. How engaged are people in said event? So how many people have, for example, well, I just click on these, scrolled. You've got the information there anyway, but you can click on it and go delve into it a little bit deeper. And people from scrolled, more likely from the US, fine. This is the information, probably not the best example, to be honest. But this is sort of information, what I'm talking about event. It's just something that happens on the website that you want to track. Conversions is that kind of, here we go. This is an event that I care about. So for this, it's begin, checkout, purchase, first visit. Brilliant. We've got that information straight away. You can actually create that, and I'm just jumping around very slightly because I know I've I've got 15 minutes left, but this is where events are found. If you want to have a conversion, you click on conversion. Oh, sorry, I lie. That's what conversions you've got. If you want a conversion, it won't happen here because actually it's the demo account, but there's a little toggle here. You click it, that event becomes a conversion. Easy as that on that front. As long as you've got the event set up, then they can be conversions. And if I just bounce back. So yeah, we've got the engagement. You can do it by events, conversions, page, screens, i.e. what pages people engage with. It says screens because if you remember, this can be used on apps and websites. So they use the word screens because actually that may be a screen of a phone, just more for confusion there. And so straight away, we can see here that actually you've got the home, shopping cart. If you don't remember stuff like this, because I don't, what my title of the page is called, you've got to drop down here. That currently isn't, let me click it. You could do page title or page path, i.e. what is the URL of the page, and it gives you something to understand it a bit better. But again, views, users, so i.e. how many users, new users, how many have there been new over that period, the engagement time, and the event and conversions. So this is the dimensions, again, the descriptor. You can add a bit more information onto that. So if you've got demographics, geography, pretend I want to say, I want people from London. So this is a Google account. So I don't know how many people will be from London if it's an American company. But yeah, so city, and then I can search London. And then here we go. So it filters straight away the key information I need. And then again, very simple, very different. And I think that's the thing I'm trying to highlight. There is a difference, and the nature of this is 90% of what I say today you probably won't remember. And that's why I'm going to send a demo account that you can play and test with.
That's going to be so useful. Harry, sorry to jump in there.
Yes,
I don't want to lose the momentum with our guest today. Siobhan Sterling. Good morning, Siobhan. Thank you so much for supporting this event. If I could kindly ask you to unmute and put your question to Harry.
Hi, Harry. Do you know, I can't remember what it was. It was when you were saying, should you install it, shouldn't you install it, devil's advocate, and does it actually track what you need to track? Partly was a business development thought for you of, does that mean there's actually value in, doing a little bit of an audit with clients or prospective clients to actually go, what is the information that's really useful? What's the best tool for that? Or is it a matter of we all just install it, look at it for a year and go, this is the solution, or it isn't the solution?
No, I think it's, as you touched upon there, it's a bit of a get on that piece of paper, what do I want to track, and then talk to someone. If you've got experience yourself, then you can look at it yourself. That's why I'm trying to show you what it can do. Actually, yeah, at the end of this, and this is a shameless plug, I've said to contact us if you need support. But kind of thing, again, actually, it's the idea. If you know what was on Google Universal Analytics, you're pretty sure you know what's on here. It's just the only addition is the events and the audiences. So it is, but we've got an audit, we've got all that's in place already, because actually, if you need something that's quite intense, as an example, I want to understand the lifetime value of people who purchase stuff, my hoodies, brilliant, we can sort that out very quickly. But you just have to understand, as you kind of inferred perfectly there, that actually what it can do. So there's two trains of thoughts: install it, see for a year, almost treat it like your first year at university. It doesn't get a grade or anything like that, just turn up and get the information, see if it works, and then look at it. Or the second food of thought, what I'm kind of probably pushing more, is actually get it sorted out properly first, and then, or sit down with a professional properly first, see if it can do what you want it to do. If it can't, don't bother. If it can, then we start working through it.
Good reply there, Harry. I'm conscious of time. We have a question from Tutu. Tutu, thank you for your question, Siobhan. Really interesting. Tutu, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a question for Harry about your landing page.
Thanks, Kaz. Harry, morning. I was going to ask, is it can he be used for landing pages, or is this the traditional normal websites that he works on?
Depend what sort of landing page. Is it built on a certain software?
ClickFunnels, Go High Level.
I think, without knowing this, I don't know them off the top of my head, but it should be, in theory, be able to be used on stuff like that. They can be in general. I couldn't tell you on that example, but I think it's likely, yes.
Okay, thank you.
What I'll do, Tutu, is I'll connect you professionally with Harry
Yeah.
afterwards, and Harry's going to engage with everybody, so you have his contact details. So he's very inclusive and will come back to everyone. I've taken up a lot of your time, Harry. If I could kindly ask you to continue, because we're looking at nearly 11:15 at the moment. Thank you.
Yeah, cool. So final few parts I quickly want to run through. Monetization. Very similar to this. As you've got an e-commerce store, I will only touch upon this, but actually, yeah, get a developer or get something sorted out in place to say, I want the revenue appearing within Google Analytics, because then you can start understanding, for example, what products are doing well, what's the add to cart rate, the e-commerce purchases, purchase to basket rate, product rate. All this information is so valuable to you. But again, back to that devil's advocate, if Shopify does it, fine, cool. If it doesn't, here we go. This is the information you need. In-app purchases, cool. This is app-based, so I'll ignore it. You've finally got additional information. So tech, if you really want to understand how people get there, and demographics, these are Google's best guesses. So pinch of salt with everything that's taken here, but actually, where do people come from? Gender, cities, all these things are brilliant. So I will quickly, for 2 minutes, that's right, exactly 2 minutes, go into this. And so this is Google Explore, hugely powerful tool. You'll see templates here that are already available of how to visualize stuff. So from funnel analysis that I showed you earlier to just a general pivot table. You can just go into templates to have a play around yourself. So predict non's top spenders. I've never clicked this one, so this could be an awful example. But we will quickly see, predict top spenders. These are all things that you could potentially capitalize on. Again, this used to be a paid for tool. So it's something, this isn't, it's this page at half explanation, cool. But this is understanding where people go. I think I clicked the wrong button. But yeah, so this is actually breaking down how people flow for your website. I won't go into too much detail, but drop me a note if you'd like to learn more about this. But actually, there is a lot of things, especially on the demo account here, that other people have done that you can have a play around with. Even like the free forms, that is literally a pivot table. So that dimensions, again, you notice I said the descriptor, always on the left-hand side, the metrics, stuff you can review. You shove them in the relevant areas, the values, and then you can work from there. Cool. If I finish the presentation now. Positive versus negatives, cookieless, doesn't need cookies, brilliant. Has event setups already, audiences, you get to know your knowledge. You can do advanced events and you can do cross-domain tracking. It can go from apps to websites, even to multiple websites if you want to import it onto several of your websites. Negatives, and I've put it as a negative because it's new. New is tough, it's different. The nature of it, actually, it looks different, it functions, it's got a different user interface. Some of the functionality isn't complete. Again, they're trying to sort that out, but you can't really do anything about that, unfortunately. But it's, I would say, 98% nowhere. Is it the final solution? We don't know yet. In touching upon that GDPR element of Google, the platform is GDPR compliant, Google's not. So there's a big grey aspect to that. And there's no natural migration from Universal Analytics to GA4 because it is a different product. It's a helicopter, and Universal is a car. Concerns I've already had. Is it expensive and hard to switch? Should have done these earlier. It's free. Will it be adding? Will it break my other analytics? No. Do I need it? Up to you. Talk to an expert. Am I losing historical data? At the moment, yes. Being black and white at the moment. However, does that need to be the case? What I would kind of advise is all the data you want kept from Universal, export it, keep in Excel sheets, whatever you want. It is there to export, so you can take it. Says a demo account, what you need to do today, and I'll rush through this. Document what you want to do, identify the actions, and create an event naming strategy. By that, I really mean is, what's the event I want to track? Don't make it really confusing, make it simple to understand in a year's time when you look at it and go, oh, I wanted to track phone numbers, but I called it mobile telephone communication system tracking. Cool, that's difficult to remember and even to look at. Second step, set up GA4 property through Google Tag Manager, or do it natively, i.e. in the HTML code, and then you can go from there. If you've got Google Tag Manager, I can't advise on that because you can create events, but that would be for a completely different day's conversation. Start to create the events you've done and break stuff. I think that's the best way of doing stuff. Play around with the stage site, break stuff. Again, back to that university analogy, it's your first year using it. You're not going to get marks on this year, just break it.
It's an interesting analogy there, Harry. We have a quick question.
My university career, isn't it, really?
We have a final question from Opa. If G4 isn't installed, will this affect rankings and SEO?
No.
Really insightful question.
No.
No. Okay, thank you. We'll let you continue.
No. To be fair, it's a really good question, and it's unfortunately you do hear about stuff like this, but there's a lot of people who peddle stuff like this. So I've just spent a couple of seconds on it. Yes, it's a Google product, analytics. Even when people say you need Google Ads to appear high in the ranking, that won't affect your SEO. It doesn't. Unfortunately, fortunately, yeah, it's separate entities, different things. I thought I'd quickly add this, and then is any questions? But actually, I was offering this to our clients, and I got encouraged to offer it out because I want people to be able to have data next year and understand the value of GA4, and not the night before Google Analytics Universal installs it. I've kind of encouraged our clients with a bit of we're only doing it for 180 with a bit of a kind of an hour and a half training session on it and installation on their website for 180. So been encouraged to do it here as well. So I just put that out as the offer. Again, my contact details at the end. And then any questions? More questions? Cool.
Okay, thank you very much. Certainly for me, I think it's raised more questions than answers, but in a really good way, Harry, because I think it was insightful. If I could open this up to the floor, if you could all kindly unmute. Is there anyone that has a question for Harry here today? We've got about 7-8 minutes. No, that means
Can
that
I ask a question, Kaz?
Oh, Martin, I can't see you, but Mr. Martin White. Yes, good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us. Ask away.
Harry, I'm just a bit confused about how the data is going to be collected in terms of acquisition data, behavioural data. As I understand it from what you were saying, the whole idea is to get rid of cookies.
Yes.
So how is the data actually going to be collected?
So it's still a very good question. That's how what I say to try and give myself a couple more seconds thinking time. Cool. No, what it is actually like so GA4 worked with cookies and without cookies. I think that's the big proposition here. Actually, it doesn't need it, and it uses AI to try and understand the behavior of how people engage with stuff. So it gets those little bit of informations that you get similar to Facebook or whatever it is, and goes, okay, I know they engage with XYZ online. They're always on a poker site. They get from eBay, whatever that information is. And if that person's accepted the cookies, then that's where they create that kind of almost demographic understanding. By location stuff, they generally do it by IP. So again, back to where are they searching from? Where's the data coming from? That's why there's always a bit of it's probably getting a bit too technical, but oh, these are all people from London. That may not be the case. They may just be using a hosting based or kind of like an internet provider in London. I don't think that's technically correct, but that's kind of like along the lines of. But actually, yeah, it works with cookies and without cookies. It uses something, I think it's called stitching, where the information it doesn't have, it tries to stitch it together and make clever assumptions of what it should be included. But yes, does that make sense?
Thank you. And that's the AI aspect, isn't it? With the
Yes.
stitching, making
Yes.
those hypotheses. Scary, dangerous, frightening, courageous. Lots of adjectives there in terms of the GA4 application. Are there any other questions from our guests here today?
Can I ask a question? It's Bob Gilliver from. I use Google Analytics.
Yep.
Oh, okay. So I'll just put the video on so you can see me. I also use Google AdWords. Does that mean Google AdWords will not be as efficient or as good going forward with that? I spend a lot of money on Google AdWords,
yes.
and I'm not sure I'm getting the value.
Yeah, so I think it's back to that. Well, there's two aspects to this. There's your ROAS, as we call it, or CPA, the cost per acquisition, i.e. how much you're spending to generate an inquiry. If that's fine, you're cool. The second aspect of it, will it be less effective? The answer, maybe. Sorry, that's on the fence there. But the problem is Google makes all its money for advertising. That's how, if you go into Google, someone clicks an ad, that's how it makes its money. So you shoot yourself in the foot if it's not going to be as effective. That's how I kind of see it, in the kind of me being slightly non-conformist when feeling about stuff like this. However,
but they don't just, sorry, Harry, they don't just do it on a Google search. They do it on using the cookies and what people looked at in the past. There's a huge lot of AI at the back end going onto that.
Yeah, so it's obviously through the Merchant Center. You can do it through Gmail. You can do it for everywhere, realistically.
Yeah.
The answer is, it's a real big debate that's currently going on in the advertising industry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know.
So it's a huge thing. I think it may not be as effective, but what is happening is, have you ever seen customer match targeting?
No.
Basically, if you've got X amount of email addresses for your customers, you can upload that to Google Ads, and then you can target those individuals if they've associated their email to their Gmail account. So again, it's those low-hanging fruits kind of focusing on, and actually it's just doing different things. They've released something recently, I think 3 or 4 months ago, with the advertising platform that is actually, I've forgotten its name, and I was talking about it last week. It's awful. But
Harry, don't worry, Harry. I'm acutely aware of questions.
Okay,
what I'm going to suggest, Robert and Harry, is that you two connect, because this is a really interesting conversation, perhaps a little bit off-piste in terms of where we are today. But Harry is an absolute marvel. You know, do reach out to him on LinkedIn, or, you know, the old-fashioned way, by telephone. He may not come back immediately, but he will always come back. If not, come via me and I'll make him. So there we go. I'm acutely aware of time. Harry, as I said, I think it's certainly, for me, it's thrown up more questions than answers, but in a really good way, because we have more knowledge about that. And I think for all of our guests today that have joined us and taken the time to join us, I think that it's been most insightful. You're always relatable, Harry. I love your style. You're very realistic, and actually you're reasonable. When you say you don't know the answer, you know, that's exactly how it is. For everybody here today, these events would not run as smoothly if it wasn't for the smart conduct of Team Chamber and that of Molly Hall, who today has made this presentation seamless. So Molly Hall, thank you very much indeed for helping us deliver this seminar. Harry, are there any closing words?
No, all good. You'll be getting the presentation stuff, so yeah, if you want to reach out, please do reach out. Like I said, happy to support wherever applicable, even if it's just for an ear to chew, because we do a lot of good stuff with web software, marketing, whatever it is, give us a shout.
Well, you're an
Yeah,
award-winning agency, Harry, and it's delightful when our other Kent-based companies and organisations can engage and work in collaboration with our Kent-based businesses. To all of you that have joined us today, we've got about 2 minutes left, so you've got 2 minutes to grab a cup of coffee before the next part of your day. As I say, thank you for your time. I hope it's been insightful. If there are any questions, don't hesitate to come back to us. We'll always connect you with Harry. On behalf of Kent Invicta Chamber, I've been Kaz Macklin. Thank you all for your time and have a good forward day. Take it easy, please.
Thank you. See you later.
Thanks. Cheers. Bye.